What's up guys, welcome back to another one of my YouTube videos, and in this YouTube video it's just going to be a lot of AI stuff that I made for just this video right now, so yeah.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're unpacking really a pivotal turning point in aviation's story. We're looking at the Boeing 757 and 767, those iconic twin jets.
Absolutely legendary pair.
Right. And it all starts back in the late 70s. You had the oil crisis. Airlines were reeling.
Big time. Yeah, they needed something different. Fuel efficiency was suddenly everything.
Exactly. So Boeing's answer wasn't just one plane, but two developed side by side. Pretty radical idea back then.
It really was.
So our mission today is to dive into the sources, pull out the key stuff, and really understand their impact, not just on the planes themselves, but, how we actually fly today.
Yeah, and what's really fascinating is the way Boeing tackled this. Their goal, super clear. Fuel efficiency / operational costs.
How'd they do it?
Well, they went for the shared development, treated the 757 and 767 almost like one program.
Which sounds efficient in itself.
Oh, incredibly. This led to amazing commonality. Think about it. Shared cockpits, same pilot type rating, similar maintenance.
Wow. Okay, so a pilot could switch between them easily.
Instantly.
Yeah.
Qualify on one, fly the other. That saved airlines literally millions in training, crewing. It was a game changer for operations, pretty much unheard of before then.
Okay, so that shared vision, it wasn't just a business plan. It drove actual tech breakthroughs, right?
Yeah.
Like in the cockpit.
Definitely.
The sources mentioned the glass cockpit.
Yeah.
What was that all about? What did it mean for pilots?
Oh, this was revolutionary. Truly. They basically ripped out countless old-school mechanical gauges.
All those dials.
Yeah, all those dials, and replaced them with electronic screens. They pioneered EFIs, the Electronic Flight Instrument System, and ICS, the Engine Indicating and Crew Alerting System.
So less clutter. Easier to read.
Way less clutter. All the critical flight info, engine data right there on a few screens. Dramatically cut down pilot workload. They could see and react faster.
And I read it meant no need for a flight engineer anymore?
Exactly. That third person in the cockpit wasn't needed. And because both the 757 and 767 had this cutting-edge common cockpit, well, that cross-qualification thing became even more of a cost saver.
Makes sense. And it wasn't just the cockpit, right? The sources talk about the wing design, something called a supercritical wing. Sounds complex.
It was a major aerodynamic leap. It's this distinct shape, flatter on top, sort of fuller underneath.
Okay, what does that do?
Well, it plays tricks with the airflow at high speeds. It delays the shock waves that cause drag when you're getting close to the speed of sound.
Ah, so less drag means.
Better efficiency. Much better. They could cruise faster and burn significantly less fuel. The numbers say as much as, 15% efficiency gain?
15%, that's huge.
It's massive. And it wasn't just cruise, it also helped with takeoff and landing performance. They could use shorter runways, operate better in those tricky hot and high airports, opened up more routes.
So, okay, efficient advanced cockpit, better wings. These planes were also really versatile then.
Incredibly so.
How did that translate into, their impact? Why are they still relevant?
Well, their robust design, their great performance, the 757, for instance, had this almost sports car power-to-weight ratio.
Huh. Never thought of playing like that.
Yeah. But that performance helped them get ETOPS certified early on, extended twin-engine operations.
Right. That's the rule, allowing twin jets over oceans.
Exactly. Before that, you generally needed 3 or 4 engines for long overwater flights. ETOPS changed everything. It opened up direct routes, point-to-point flying across oceans with just 2 engines.
So they basically pioneered modern long-haul flying with twins.
They absolutely paved the way. It might seem normal now, but back then, is a huge shift, enabled by the reliability and performance of planes like the 767 initially, and then the 757 too, defined the global routes we use today, really.
And it's amazing, you still see them everywhere, decades later.
Absolutely. Passenger versions aren't really made anymore, but their durability. Legendary. Maintenance records. Excellent. That 757-300 had like a 99.7% dispatch reliability. Just incredible. So they've found this huge second life. Loads of 757s are now flying cargo for FedEx, UPS. They kind of dominate express freight.
Makes sense with that performance.
Yep. And the 767, it's still in production, mainly for cargo now and really crucial military roles. Think the KC-46 tanker, the E-767 A-Way ACS plane for Japan, from an oil crisis solution to delivering packages and refueling jets.
It's pretty clear these planes were way ahead of their curve. influenced cockpits, efficiency, how airlines even planned routes. But with passenger production stopped, what does that mean now for you, the passenger, or the industry?
Yeah, that's a key point the sources bring up. Stopping passenger production, especially the 757, it left this gap, a middle of the market gap.
What kind of routes were those?
Think long, thin routes. Too long for a standard narrow body like a 737, but not quite enough demand for a big wide body like a 777 or 787. The 757 was perfect for those.
Oh, so there was a void.
A definite void. And now you see newer planes like the Airbus A321XLR stepping right into that space, offering amazing range and efficiency, specifically targeting that niche the 757 basically created and then left open.
It really shows how influential that original 767 concept was, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Its legacy is still shaping the market today.
So next time you see a 757 hauling cargo overnight, or a 767 tanker, maybe even flying on an older passenger one somewhere, just remember, it's not just an old plane.
Not at all.
It's really a symbol of game-changing innovation, proof of incredible adaptability, and honestly, a direct link between aviation's past and its future.
Okay. Today, we're going to really unpack what's going on with the Boeing company. You know, a giant in aerospace, but facing some really surprising challenges lately. We're using your sources for this deep dive, and the mission really is to pull out those key nuggets, go beyond the headlines, and understand where Boeing is now and maybe where it's heading.
Yeah, it's quite something. A company with, a century of innovation behind it, and now it's grappling with these huge, very contemporary issues, especially, as you know, in commercial airplanes. They seem to be wrestling with their own identity almost.
Right. And your sources, they really point to that 1997 merger with McDonnell Douglas. That was the moment. Can you talk a bit about how that reportedly kicked off such a deep cultural shift, this whole bean counter idea?
Absolutely. The sources suggest that merger really marked a shift, a significant one, where this financially driven, cost-cutting mindset started to gain ground over Boeing's traditional engineering first way of thinking. So more focus on the bottom line, short-term profits, maybe streamlining things sometimes, perhaps, at the expense of really rigorous engineering or long-term R&D.
So we're not just talking about the 737 MAX crisis here, though that was huge, right? A $20 billion hit, cancellations. It's this deeper thing, this systemic issue potentially affecting their whole approach.
Exactly. It seems to be about the underlying culture.
And then there's the move, the strategic relocation to Arlington, Virginia back in 2022. That signals a clear pivot towards defense, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. The stated reason was being closer to key customer stakeholders in D.C., boosting the defense side of the business. But you could argue that physical distance from Seattle, from the commercial engineering hub, well, it might actually deepen that cultural disconnect we mentioned. Makes it potentially harder maybe to keep everyone aligned on a single quality-first message across the whole company.
But here's the twist, right? Despite all these massive headaches in commercial, Boeing's global services arm is actually doing really well, consistently profitable. What was it, an 18.1% operating margin in fiscal 24? That's a pretty important cushion, surely.
Oh, absolutely vital. It is, that diversification. And you've got defense, space, and security, too. They just landed that big Air Force NGAD fighter contract, remember? It provides a crucial buffer. Global services, specifically, it's like a reliable engine pumping out revenue, helping offset some of those pretty significant manufacturing losses.
Okay, but does that create its own problem? Having this safety net from global services, does it maybe take some of the heat off fixing the commercial side urgently? Or is it just, essential life support while they try to transform?
That's a really good question. Look, it definitely provides stability, no doubt. But the core tension is still there, isn't it? You've got huge market demand, airlines needing planes, modernization, emerging markets, and then you have these deep, persistent operational problems.
Right.
The success of global services, well, it shows how diversification can help a company ride out a rough patch. But it doesn't or shouldn't lessen the urgency to fix the fundamental issues in the biggest part of the business.
Makes sense, because the numbers are stark when you put them together. A $521 billion order backlog, huge. That massive Qatar Airways deal for wide bodies. And that profitable services segment, yet still posting major financial losses in these ongoing quality scares.
Precisely. Those quality control issues just keep cropping up. That Alaska Airlines door plug incident in January 2024 was pretty vivid. And the FAA stepping in, halting production expansion. It just screams, that a fundamental change is needed, culturally, operationally.
Yeah.
Getting back to an engineering-first, safety-focused ethos seems, absolutely paramount, non-negotiable, really.
So For you listening, this is more than just a business story, isn't it? It's a real test. How does a global leader like Boeing handle such profound disruption and change? And it underlines that real recovery. It's not just about the balance sheet, is it? It's about rebuilding trust, getting back to that foundational excellence.
Exactly.
It really makes you wonder, though, can a company truly overhaul its culture just from the top down?
Right.
Or does that kind of deep change have to sort of bubble up organically, from the engineers, from the factory floor itself, something to mull over? Okay, today we're diving into the story of an aircraft that was genuinely epic, the Airbus A380.
Yes, the hotel in the sky. Quite the engineering feat.
Absolutely, a real marvel. But, despite that grandeur, it ended up being a bit of a commercial puzzle, didn't it?
It did indeed. A commercial disappointment, really, when you look at the numbers.
So our deep dive today is about figuring out why. Why did this incredible piece of engineering stumble?
Well, Airbus essentially made this multi-billion-dollar bet on a future that, well, it never quite materialized.
How so? What was the vision?
Their vision was pretty clear. Take on Boeing 747, the queen of the skies, right?
Mm-hmm.
And tackle what they thought would be massive airport congestion. They were betting big on the hub-and-spoke model continuing.
Right. Bigger planes connecting massive hubs.
Exactly. That was the core idea.
But that core idea, the hub-and-spoke thing, that turned out to be the fundamental misstep.
Pretty much. While Airbus was focused on that, the market was actually shifting.
Shifting how?
Passengers started preferring, point-to-point flights. And technology enabled that with efficient, smaller, twin-engine jets.
Like Airbus's own A350, ironically.
Precisely. And what's really interesting is that the A380's development itself was, well, let's just say it wasn't smooth sailing.
Riddled with issues, I heard.
Absolutely. Took over 15 years to get it to market. That's like 4 years longer than planned.
Wow.
And they had these incredibly expensive wiring problems during development. Cost them billions, reportedly around $5 billion just on that.
So, okay, beyond the huge cost overruns, how did those delays actually hurt the plane once it finally launched?
Well, it had this knock-on effect. By the time the A380 was finally ready, engine technology had moved on. Rolls-Royce, GE, they were offering newer, much more efficient engines for twin jets.
Making the A380's 4 engines seem less efficient.
Exactly. By comparison, they were. So, in a way, the A380 was kind of dated almost before its first commercial flight.
But technologically, it was still amazing, right? Double-decker, potentially seating over 800 people.
Oh, undeniably. Advanced materials, composites, super quiet for passengers, really comfortable.
So if it was such a great plane to fly in, why the commercial failure?
Simply put, poor economics. It was a technological marvel, yes, but commercially, not so much. An abject failure, some would say.
And those 4 engines, the operating costs, that's the quad jet penalty we hear about.
That's it. I mean, operating costs were just incredibly high.
Like, how high are we talking?
You're looking at maybe $25,000 to $35,000 per flight hour.
Wow.
Yeah. 4 engines guzzling fuel about 4,600 gallons an hour. Huge crews needed, up to 22 in the cabin.
And higher airport fees, too, because it's so heavy.
Exactly. Fees are often based on weight. So his reality was basically you had to fly it almost completely full to make the per-seat cost competitive.
Full cabin or bust.
Pretty much. Compare that to something like a modern A350-1000 that is roughly twice as fuel efficient, carrying a similar payload.
Twice as efficient. That's huge. And weren't there practical issues, too, just getting it into airports?
Oh, yeah. It needed major airport upgrades, special dual jet bridges, reinforced taxiways sometimes. That really limited where it could actually fly.
Right. Not every airport could handle it.
And another crucial point,
Yeah.
unlike the 747, which has had a great second life carrying cargo.
The A380 wasn't really designed for freight.
Nope. Its design was all about passengers. That floor strength, the door placements, just not suitable for heavy freight conversion. A big missed opportunity compared to the versatile 747.
So the financial hit for Airbus must have been enormous.
Immense. Development costs ballooned, maybe $25 billion, even $30 billion. They needed something like 420 orders just to break even on that.
And they delivered how many in the end?
Only 251.
Ouch. So billions in losses.
Billions. Estimates vary, but maybe $15 billion, could be as high as $25 billion lost on the program.
And it really all hung on one key customer, didn't it?
It really did. Emirates. They were the lifeline. They took nearly half of all the A380s ever built.
So when they cut back their final orders...
That was pretty much the final nail in the coffin for new production.
Yeah.
Airbus announced the end of the line shortly after.
But hang on, we are seeing them flying again now. Quite a bit, actually. Is it making some kind of comeback?
It looks like it, but it's complicated. It's more of a tactical stopgap, really. Meaning, with all the delays in getting new planes delivered post-pandemic and this huge surge in travel demand.
Airlines need the seats. Any seats.
Exactly. They're pulling A380s out of storage simply because they need the capacity right now.
Yeah.
It doesn't really mean the plane's long-term economics have suddenly improved.
Got it. So, pulling this all together, what's the big takeaway for you listening in?
The A380 is just this incredible case study, isn't it?
Yeah.
Amazing engineering meeting a market that just wasn't there.
A multi-billion-dollar lesson in market prediction.
You could say that.
Yeah.
And while it was arguably Airbus's biggest loss maker financially, it was also maybe an invaluable learning experience. Things they learned developing the A380 definitely fed into the success of the A350, which is much better aligned with the market.
So the story really highlights that tension, doesn't it? Between having a grand, bold engineering vision and the messy reality of what the market actually wants and needs.
Absolutely. It is a powerful reminder that even the most monumental achievements, these incredible flying machines, they still have to fit the dynamics of supply and demand to truly succeed long term.
That's the end of this video, and bye.